everyone, wherever you are in the world. Maybe it's not morning, but whatever time it is, wherever you are, good afternoon, good evening, and to you and to all, a good night. Today, as a part of the 17 in 17, although it is now 2018, I am continuing to review the last couple of books on my list, and today we are reading, resourcing, and reviewing The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav. So first, before we get into anything else, I want to thank you so much for tuning into this book review, whether you're watching it from YouTube or from SaronSays.com. I appreciate you being interested in what I am trying to give you through this text and through the other texts that I have reviewed this year. So thank you so much for tuning in advance. The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav is a book that I found, it was one of Oprah's best books of her lifetime career that she was sharing on the Oprah show. And I decided that because Oprah was super into it and I'm super into Oprah, that I was going to read it. I actually bought it from a secondhand bookshop in my neighborhood, which was really cool. And from there, I got to reading it. So the main message in The Seat of the Soul that Gary Zukav is trying to communicate is that as we are evolving as a human species, we are becoming more in touch with our spiritual relationship to the world. And through that, he specifically is talking about our intuition. He's talking about our connection to other people. He's talking about how much we are in touch with our senses and how that is a big step into the direction that we want to go as far as becoming more spiritually connected human beings. Obviously, the book was written in 1989. So now that we are in 2018, almost, wow, 30 years later almost, you know, it's a little dated. Not to say that the book was not good or that I didn't gain anything from it, but it's pretty obvious when I was reading this text that most of these values, most of the messages that Gary Zukav is trying to communicate are things that we're a little familiar with or that have been previously since now have been recently in the past 30 years updated and evolved by other authors, other scientists, other psychologists. In the book, the author talks about karma, intention, responsibility, power, and how all of these things are related to us being more spiritually connected to ourselves and to each other. I thought it was pretty cool just because I would like to think that any information that's going to help me be more spiritually connected to myself or connected to those around me is something that I want to learn about and something that I want to gain from. I am, of course, a student of the world, and I am a seeker of the truth and a seeker of knowledge. So I went into the book pretty open-minded. I decided that whatever it was going to be, I was going to try to receive it for what it was. In saying that, I did have a lot of trouble getting through the book. Maybe just because the writing style wasn't that interesting to me, but I found that even in the messages that the author was trying to communicate, and even in me being open to reading it, I would very much get lost in the reading. Like I would find myself flipping through pages, or I would sit down and I would read it for an hour and I would get through a chapter. But I might only remember one thing that happened in that chapter, or pages and pages would go by and I would kind of get lost in my own thoughts and my own interpretation of the message and not necessarily focused on what the author was trying to communicate. So in saying that, I definitely feel that the book is important in the history of, you know, our psychological evolution. I think that the book is interesting and important in the presence of modern day psychology and modern day spirituality because, you know, in the 1950s, the 1960s, the 1970s, you know, psychology was really more about like studying obedience, studying patterns, studying social trends. And then we get to the late 20th century where finally people are talking about emotions and they're talking about following your heart and they're talking about what does it mean to be spiritually connected. You know, the words emotions and the words emotions and spirituality were not a part of the psychological theological dictionary until the 1990s. So this book definitely has an important place in how we were able to start looking at and developing ideas around spirituality in psychology. And that's ultimately what the book is about. Overall, I would say that the book was good. It was fair. If you were someone who is interested in studying the classic books of this genre of self-help, of spirituality, of psychology, like me, we're in this together, you're not alone, then definitely read it, because it will teach you something and it'll kind of give you the foundation for what a lot of our modern day knowledge is built off of. If you're somebody who just kind of wants to learn, or somebody who's interested in spirituality but isn't necessarily interested in all of the tedious works that have gone into studying it, I would definitely say that this book is not for you. But either way, it's an important read. I'm glad that I added it to my list. So now I can say The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav, this classic book that Oprah, my girl, she raves about, I have now read. So now I have officially read Seat of the Soul, and I can say that I've gained what I think I can gain from it. If you're interested in gaining from it, you can find it on Amazon.com, or at your local library, or at your neighborhood secondhand bookstore. Thank you so much for tuning into this review. Until next time.
If you want to check out more books like The Seat of the Soul, you can do so at saransays.com. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe below. Peace, love, sanity, and serenity.